Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello? Everything.
Hi, Matthew. It's
Hello.
Michael here. How you going?
Oh, can you hear me okay now? I was just able to turn my microphone on.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Sorry about the confusion with the time zones and all that, and the situation with Angelo, which I wanted to discuss with you about the training and everything else, because he had been telling me a lot of things about like what the training is or isn't, and he told me he spoke with you for 4 hours on the phone regarding the training and situational awareness and practical things like this, but he wouldn't disclose what was discussed. So for privacy reasons and things of this nature, which I can disclose the details of, I had to unfortunately at this time remove him from the expedition, and I do apologize for
Okay.
that confusion and last minute uh, decision.
Okay. No, that's your side of things. So I'm not sure. It's up to you guys. I'm kind of it's not something I have control over or what's happening over there. So I'm not sure what was going on. But thanks for letting us know.
No issue. And I just wanted to hear from you what the situation is potentially with, you know, training services or what Hawkeye can offer for a potential uh, team that's in a situation as ours with the goals of this expedition, for instance, or anything else regarding the from what I understand, my brief research into the general idea of, Hawkeye dynamics would be, being in high stress environments where situational awareness and, being as far as, I mean, I've researched generally the idea of Hawkeye dynamics. And what would you say the type of things that we should be preparing for?
Well, as we sort of spoke to Angelo previously, is we're sort of trying to find out as like where you were going to, which is obviously the Antarctica, and the what was happening, and to to the because of the opportunities with Hawkeye Dynamics is being able to um, diversify into what's needed for the course or design the course around you guys. So this gives them an opportunity to work out what's needed. Are you what opportunities you have on what you can able to take down there, and what's the environment like, and so on and so forth. So we ran over a little bit of that, and then that Hawkeye Dynamics is one of the options of being able to give you situational awareness, and as you've sort of looked up to see what he's doing on his side of things. But then we also have a opportunity with other people on martial arts side and self defense and that type of thing as well. So that's through other contacts and other people which we've been in touch with, and they're kind of keen to show you guys what's needed if that's something you're looking at doing.
Um, yes, we're looking for, I mean, for as far as the expedition team members, and this was true as well, because the situation with Angelo was that he was telling me that he spoke with you for 4 hours and something like that during a phone call, but he was refusing to disclose with me the general idea. I mean, of what you what was discussed as far as the specifics as far as what we should be preparing for. But unfortunately, he was using that as a means to undermine any type of overall goals I had for the expedition. It seems like he really wanted to take a type of executive role as far as leading an expedition himself. So I guess I sent him, I referred to him to MFAT if he wanted to lead his own expedition, but I genuinely don't believe he believed in my vision for the expedition. So unfortunately, and because of the issues where I believe he was trying to use the conversation between the two of you as a means to pretty much become the leader of the group, so to speak. But he was doing it very in a very strange kind of way, where he was not disclosing with me what he had said to other people, not just yourself, but other members of the expedition. He kept telling them, "Don't tell Matthew this, don't tell Matthew that." So it was creating a very hectic type of environment where these white lies were compounding into larger structural trust issues. So I'm sorry for that, and I really do want Angelo to be a part of this. But right now, it's I feel like we need we need group members that are very mentally grounded and stable and know exactly what we're up against here, logistically, logically, physically, situational awareness. I mean, but what I really would like to hear your thoughts on that, because he was the one that claimed he had the 4-hour discussion with you regarding the potential details of what we're going to be getting involved with.
Right, yeah, he didn't come across as if as he was trying to take over or trying to push in. So on our side of things, he didn't seem like he wanted to undermine yourself or any of the other team. He just wanted to um, keep things sort of a private conversation type thing. So I'm not sure what was happening between you guys. And as I said to him, it's not kind of up to me or not my business on how that works. It's up to you guys to sort that out. It's not. I don't want to be the one in the middle that's kind of saying how you guys should run things. If you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well,
It's
the
it's
main issue was
yeah.
just, I guess, loyalty and trust between the members, because he was messaging other members of the expedition and undermining my.
Right.
He was saying, "Don't tell Matthew this," but Matthew is going to get us basically hurt in the environment. He's sabotaging the whole expedition plans. He's jeopardizing our safety. So, and when
Yeah.
I
So yeah.
so, I mean, for my own, I just feel like, unfortunately, as of this time, it wouldn't be responsible for me to bring Angelo along, as I feel like he would be potentially sabotaging his own safety and the larger goals of the expedition, seeing as he's very, he could tell 5 different people 5 different things right now, and I believe he's not respecting other people's
Right.
issues regarding trust. But I
Yeah.
do, I am very, very interested in learning more about what potential training and other types of services that could be offered through Hawkeye Dynamics and its other associates, as far as what can be done practically in these types of environments that most people don't go into normally.
Yes. Yes. So Hawkeye Dynamics runs on a as you're sort of saying, is I don't know what you've seen in the research. Have you been through his website and his stuff and what he's been doing? Or?
I have done research on Hawkeye Dynamics itself, but the way Angelo was describing it, well, he wouldn't give me actually any type of general idea or receipts or anything as far as what he discussed with you. But from what he was telling me, is that
Right.
I was full of delusion and I was sabotaging the project over and over again, and that this would be a drill structure type of environment where I would be getting screamed at 4 a.m. or something like that, and I would be getting broken down psychologically or something like this. I mean, he kept going on about these David Goggin type of philosophies or views, and he kept telling me how wrong I was as a leader. That's all he told me for the last month or two.
Okay.
So I kept asking him if he could please. I repeated, please, can we stay grounded, uh, keep our eye on
Yeah.
what's in front of us here, and just take one step at a time as far as hearing Mike out and hearing out Jeremy or any other members like that have connections to Hawkeye and what of the other training services. But he kept
Right. Right.
because I'm very much wanted Angelo to come along, and I'm really just and I asked him too about Jeremy's Veritasium silver rounds, right? I mean
Okay.
yeah, and he was telling me that I kept asking him philosophically, for instance, what does the silver round mean to you? And it seemed like he wasn't grasping the concept of this is a declaration really as far as the unbreakable promise and what it means for sovereignty and actual values of independence outside of pretty much these unjust arbitrary rulers or illusions through whatever. But he kept saying, well, I just want X amount of fiat money or whatever. So I unfortunately don't believe, maybe I fell short as a leader even explaining what the principle was behind the rounds in the first place, or the silver or decentralized money. But I just don't believe for emotional stability that he is unfortunately ready for what potentially is at hand here.
Right.
I
Okay.
just really wanted to make that absolutely clear, though, because I know that he um, had been speaking with Jeremy and had helped to organize communications between ourselves and the larger expedition groups. Um,
Right. Okay.
Okay. But as of right now, what do you think we should do moving forward, seeing as our expedition is serious about training services and practical
Well,
survival?
yes, that's what we were kind of discussing with Angelo a fair bit. Was just sort of it's the philosophies and things is kind of not where I'm at. We're kind of just offering you guys something that you possibly need for your expedition. We don't want to run into politics or any of that side of it. It's not kind of what we do. Um, so what we've got on what can be offered down here is when you guys come down is, as I say, one side of it's just the Hawkeye Dynamics, which he runs courses. The guy David Long is the guy that runs it or owns it, and he's potentially the guy that will will pass on his details and everything to you. So when you do, or if you decide to take that route with the Hawkeye Dynamics, then you'll be dealing with David. My situation and where we're at the moment with Jeremy is this is just a favour for Jeremy to help you guys out. Like I don't want to get paid for it, or I don't want to be part of that payment thing or anything that's gonna require you guys to reward me for something that we're doing. It's not what I'm about. We're doing it a favour for Jeremy just to, because of what he's done for us or for me. So and we've got my situation is we've had the opportunity to travel the world and meet a lot of interesting and amazing guys. So we'd be quite keen on passing on that information to you guys, but we're just giving you a rundown on what they do and how they do it. So if that's something you want to do, then we give you their details and you contact them and deal with them, and they'll run through the course and do the thing, especially with Hawkeye Dynamics.
Mm,
his his course, basically what his courses do is he'll take you through a scenario of potentially of what you may be encountering. So in previous courses and previous things of what he's done is he's had guys go into countries that are potentially have roadblocks or hostile people that you may encounter. So you might encounter terrorists or kidnappers or some sort of threat of some kind. So then once we or he finds out what that threat is and what you're dealing with, then he'll design that course around what you're going to come up against. So that's the whole idea of what we were doing with Angelo, is finding out what potentially you're coming against, what you're going to be encountering. Obviously, you're going to be down in the cold, so if you're coming through in June and July, from my understandings, you guys are going to be arriving at that sort of time of the year into New Zealand. Then that's our winter time. So potentially, then you'd be taken up into the high country and into the snow and having to and showing how to deal with those extreme colds and temperatures and things like that.
Yes, I think exactly that's what I was hoping could be offered as far as services out in these type of remote areas. And you mentioned before about situations with roadblocks like lawless, or situations where it's really up to the individuals in the expedition to have the sensory awareness to be able to protect each other and themselves, because I do believe that in these environments like that is, I mean, I'm not sure, but I want to hear it from David and Hawkeye Dynamics. But yes, survival and awareness out in the wild, so to speak, or environments like this is it's going to be very key practically, it would seem. And you and is there? Would you say, generally speaking, like if we come in July, that's what I was thinking too about the logistics of it, because I believe if we come in July, you know, from America or UK or whichever country, I believe we could stay 6 months, 5 to 6 months or something like that, as far as the training and preparations are concerned.
Right, right. Yes, yes. So that was the other thing we ran through as well. Like I do the martial arts side of things with some of the other guys, and well, I have done a lot of martial arts and things over the period of times. But as I say, I sort of travelled a lot as well. So there's opportunities here with clubs for the self defence side of things. So I don't know how far and what self defence you guys have done, or is that something you're looking at doing as well? Or
Mm, so, from what I kind of see right now, your side of things is more the martial arts introductory side of things, and then the next side of things that goes deeper into the actual details of what can be happening on the ground in any given situation is David. Is that correct?
in a way, yes. So David does the courses. Like you could go and do the courses with David. We're helping him out on getting set up and running some of the courses and trying to be involved a little bit with it as well. But that's mainly his thing. Um, I'll explain through with what David's doing on his side of it. So he'll do potentially a scenario where if you if you're landing into a country and in a kidnap situation, where he makes you aware of what potentially dangers can be. So if you're coming into either say South Africa and you're coming up to a set of lights or into an area where there's a roadblock, he did a scenario where the taxi driver's trying to kidnap you and you're and the guys on the roadblock are involved in the kidnapping. So he'll have a couple of guys out in a paddock. With a situation we had was in a paddock, and he had in a vehicle, and then we were driving with the taxi driver, and the taxi driver started sort of acting a bit strange, and then the guys at the roadblock started running through a scenario of arguing in bits and pieces. So it kind of escalated very quickly. So then he showed us how to exit a vehicle, how to get out of the situation, where to go to, which directions, and how to
Mm.
handle that situation. So he's kind of really good on that side of it, and having the practical skills of actually being over in Afghanistan and having time over there and being in that kind of potential scenarios and things like that. He's done a lot of training on that.
So,
Um, yeah.
would you say emotional stability is very crucial in these type of situations? Like, no, I mean, even though, you go into these types of environments that you've never been in before, but even reading people's microaggressions, like the behavior of the taxi driver could prepare you. I mean, it just seems like, would you say that heightened sense, like the being heightened, your senses heightened or aware would be beneficial or something like that? Because you said skills as far as, de-escalating as far as escaping vehicles, not trying to, outman like a 10-person blockade or something like that, because that would be an unwinnable situation or something like that.
Yes, yes. So then that's where the martial arts would come in. So for from what I can see and I understand of what you guys are doing and where you're going, you kind of the martial arts side of it. Have you? Sorry, but do you have any martial arts experience, or have you dealt with anything like that?
Well, it's been probably 2 decades, but I used to technically have a black belt in martial arts, but it was 20 years ago. In the recent times, I
That's
haven't had any formal martial arts training.
okay. No, that's fine. That's perfect. That just makes you understand of where I'm sort of talking about. So, what martial arts was that in?
Just general type when I was young, when I was in these like Taekwondo youth programs, but that was so long ago, I
Okay,
can't
okay,
say that I have much memory or anything of, but perhaps there's muscle memory, but as far as memory, as far as my conscious awareness and memory of
okay.
that, I don't have.
Okay, so when I was growing up, we were kind of well, there's a lot of taekwondo around New Zealand, but we had a thing called Zendu Kai, which was a Japanese martial arts that was brought in through Australia for door work and practical street application. So what that did was give you the kind of aspect of reading body language and seeing a situation evolve before it escalates. So it makes you aware of, this in a club situation or a pub or in a group situation, you're reading people's sort of body language a little bit to see, okay, this guy's now agitated. He's now escalating things. So you remove him from the situation. If you're working the doors and you're removing him from the situation before it escalates.
So
Or, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, because see, this was the issue I was having as far as just because I wanted to have all the information laid out as clearly as possible. And the
Yes.
situation with Angelo, he was telling me something very different about how this was going to be something like a U.S. military, like getting screamed at 4 a.m. boot camp and all these types of drill instructor type things. But from what you've told me so far and my original research into Hawkeye dynamics and the general idea of what you're laying out here is it's more almost symbolically like reading somebody's own micro expressions almost telepathically symbolically and seeing, oh, they just had this mind micro expression, and I'm starting to see a shift in their behavior now. And because of that situational awareness aspect of things, you start adjusting accordingly, and you try to de-escalate the situation or find a method where you and your other team members will get out of any type of high stress situation like this safely, and not basically try to bend the bar symbolically of the cage of the walls, or just bend your will to your own desire, but to live in 100% practical reality and be also physically fit and strong enough to be able to combat that physically, mentally, um, and all that. Would you say that that is sort of true from what I'm picking up?
Yes. So to have that whole scenario, you'd be using both those training techniques. So you'd use the martial arts and the Hawkeye dynamics to get to that end goal. Yes.
Yes, because that's exactly what I think we we will need going forward as a group, regardless of who's a member or not. But I would just think this is advice that would apply to any expedition members going into these types of, environments. So I'm
Right.
100% committed. um, I'm committed to the goals of the training and whatever needs to be done, because I'm starting from a standpoint. I've done a lot of research logistically into, travel arrangements, and I've tried to do that side financially, logistically, but now I have to be forward and say and humble myself in the fact that I'm not physically there yet. I actually, years ago, I had health issues with my gut, and I fasted down to a very low weight. And I was lucky enough to be able to recover from that eating naturally, let's just say like raw, organic type foods, proteins, or raw fish, or anything like this. And I was able to gain uh, my muscle mass back. So, I don't have any
Right.
physical training right now, but I feel like for the first time in maybe 10 years, I'm physically at the side of things where I can potentially, train my body, as before I was too damaged, unfortunately. So I just kind of
Okay.
wanted to give a rundown of my own physical fitness.
Okay. That's I think for where you guys are going to is a very key point of the fitness. Through my experience of martial arts, the top guys, like through Thai kickboxing and um, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and a few other different martial arts, the very key points is the fitness. If you're physically fit, you're more chance of winning the situation or being on top of the situation than you are if you're not. Despite the techniques, like the guys I know would be physically super fit, and then they'd learn the techniques and have the techniques, which then added to their chances of being coming out of the situation on top. So that is a key point, especially in the cold. We said to Angelo, have we have you heard of the Wim Hof, who does the breathing techniques and the things there?
Yes, because I have heard of Wim Hof, and I understand that the environment we're going into might have particularly dry, thin type of air. So it might be something that would take some getting used to as far as breathing goes, because of the relatively, very low humidity or environment. I mean, maybe the lungs haven't experienced such air before and things of this nature.
Okay. Yes. So that would be doing some high country training here in New Zealand. So you're getting altitude for the walking and
We
hiking
believe.
and sort of altitude sort of training a lot of that's done here in New Zealand through various guys as well. So the idea of when we're speaking to Angelo was to get an idea of what you're kind of needing, and we did. We've got a few contacts here in New Zealand that do like for instance, are you able to take firearms and weapons with you when you're doing your expedition, or is that a kind of a no go and not there's no opportunity with that?
Well, as of right now, I was in contact with Antarctic, New Zealand, and I submitted a formal application through MFAT, and I did that on November 17th, 2025. And pretty much since then, I was just doing extensive research into the, geography, and all that, topography, environment,
Right.
climate in this area, and also, the paperwork, the bureaucratic side of that. So 2 months I waited, and Antarctic, New Zealand contacted me back and suggested that I contact my national competent authority. So pretty much my application for permits, they're reviewing that right now. We're looking over
Right.
what I need to do next as far as, the side of things in Washington, DC goes, because I'm based in America right now. And for
Yes.
Angelo, I asked him to contact the polar regions and all that, or whoever would be the national competent authority for whichever country the member of the expedition. But it seems like since I'm taking the role as far as, the head applicant on the advance notification, I, you know, had to ultimately say that yes, I think everything will be going through America as far as what permits are we're going to be approved for, which we haven't been given, access yet to these certain areas or zones. So I just wanted to be clear about,
Right.
that side of thing as far as the bureaucratic side of things. So we're still waiting for confirmation on the end of, officials in the Washington D.C. area, but I do believe that, we can hopefully be given granted access for all that. And I would just really like to love to move forward with the potential training. I'm very open and ready to learn. And I hope, and I really think the other members of the expedition are as well. Because
Okay. No,
yeah,
that's fine. Is it? We do have a guy here and the opportunity to be able to teach firearms training. So, but that may not be relevant if you can't take them down or can't use them. So that's
well,
something that it's an opportunity. So it's,
I'm not sure exactly because I would still have to ask this to um, I would still have to do some research into that, but I do believe there could potentially be room for that. I mean, I'm not because I'm still new to, understanding how all this works exactly down there, if you know what I'm
right.
saying.
Yes. Yeah. The bureaucratic side of things, I'm not aware myself because it's not somewhere I've travelled to. So, unfortunately, I can't help you on that side of it. And we can possibly find out, but I don't know yet.
Would
I haven't sort of looked into it. So.
would you say, generally speaking, though, this could be the coldest, driest uh, type of environment that we've ever walked into? All members of this expedition coming from
Into
America.
the Antarctic or into New Zealand?
And I mean, and generally speaking, I could probably say both, but particularly Antarctica. But it does seem like Christchurch, for instance, or the regions around there, they do simulate the environment, especially in the winter of, high
Yes,
mountain peaks, ice, dry air, possibly once you get up in the elevations, thin air, just
yes.
kind of the environment that would not perfectly simulate, but give you a base level opportunity to train in so you can build from there, possibly.
100%. That's the idea. So and that's the we have. I have had a guy come in from America when I was when I was a young child. Stayed with my parents. That was going to Antarctica. So we had he was a scientist, and we heard a few stories of it's just ice and cold and dry. So the biggest things that the cold. They did what they called a minute club down there. So they cut a hole in the ice and jump in the ice and stay underwater for a minute, and then come out. It's just a traditional thing they used to do. So I can imagine that's something cold which can be simulated here over the winter time. So then you're getting into certain parts of the South Island where you'd have those environments, and that's where potentially um, Hawkeye Dynamics would come in and put you into that situation. If you're getting if you're wanting that training of the David Grogan and the yelling and screaming and 4 a.m. sort of scenarios, which I don't think would be relevant. But if that's sort of what you're looking for, then it can be provided here for you. But I don't think that sort of thing's necessary for you guys. And if it was happening, it'd be more of a getting a mindset to being prepared to get ready for something that'd be out of the norm. Might end up
Absolutely.
in yeah. So that's something that could be when we sit down and start getting this properly done, then you'd be speaking to David and speaking to the guys that'll run these courses and run these things. So you'd be I'd be getting you in touch with David, which we were going to do today, but because of other people involved, like on our side, we're looking at some martial arts side and some other high country training and some and weapon training and things like that. They're different people, so that so they're and
Well,
the guys that yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, I was just thinking from what I've researched into the Arctic, the northern regions, it's pretty common even in Alaska or Svalbard or something like this that people carry, weapons to defend themselves against just natural prey, for instance, even. So I was thinking,
Okay. Okay.
would you think theoretically or hypothetically in these type of environments that there could be you know, things like this, just that would practically, you would need a weapon possibly to defend yourself from, let's say, a giant polar bear, for instance, or something like that, that, might be camouflaged into the environment at the last second. I mean, maybe no other weapon would cut it to defend oneself against something like that, a situation like that. What do you think? Or do you think that's a possibility in this hypothetical?
Yes, my understanding there's a lot different sort of obstacles down there and out of worldly kind of things that are going to be down there. That's what we kind of from what we've heard and understand. There's the mainstream idea of polar bears and things like that, but then there's another outside of the mainstream, which is what we've heard through a guy called Admiral Byrd. We've been watching documentaries and things
Mm,
like that, which they've come across, which kind of Angelo did mention there could be anything out of that kind of off planet sort of things down there, and
yep.
we don't know. I don't know, and I'm not sure if that's sort of where you guys are running to. But if you have the opportunity to be able to have something to protect yourself, um, our fast track training would be understanding what's down there and then being able to provide you with something that's going
Mm.
to be able to combat that, and
Um,
then we train you on that. So
I I
if
think
if you're yeah, sorry,
sorry.
go
I
ahead,
think sorry.
go
I think
ahead.
if I had to make an educated guess, though, it would probably be practical to learn the skills such as the self-defense through martial arts and
Yes,
maybe weapon training and things such as all natural type of like bow and arrow or other types of weapons that don't pollute the environment as much possibly because this is a very different type of environment, I think. But am I getting a
yes,
type of general idea of what might be, what we might be up against versus like the Arctic example might not have been perfect, but what I was trying to get at is yes, there are things that can happen unexpectedly and it's not good to let one's guard down in this type of new let's just say symbolic alien type environment because
yes,
I've spent a lot of time in America now and only seen, well, what's available here, as far as the natural environment goes. And a lot of it has been, used for commercial purposes or has just been tamed in a sense. It's not the raw type of wild that people saw during maybe like older expeditions like the Lewis and Clark or other old expeditions from 100, 200 years ago. So, I
right,
mean, I don't know if I've ever actually even been out in the wild, much less, going to these far southern latitudes in these extreme conditions. So I do believe that if I were to guess, maybe more natural type of self-defense weapons would be more conducive here.
right. Okay, okay. So then, when we were learning here in New Zealand, it was they were doing a lot of sticks and obviously a knife, but some of that training as well. But that doesn't get taught to the kind of learning students, and I'd have to do a bit more research on that. whereas you have to be sort of black belts. And now, like these days, you now have to be third dans before they start teaching weapons. So that's something we'd have to look into to that side of it. On the firearms side, then we can teach you all that um, side of things on usage and potential situations that may occur.
Yeah,
So
because
that yeah, so,
I really want to just, hear from, because I'm just speculating here, giving the general idea. But
yes,
I mean, I do want to defend myself, but I also practically don't want to do that at the cost of polluting the environment, because I know it's a pretty, I just think for my, but I really, yeah, would, if possible, like to be able to defend myself through all natural means. I mean, but if I
yes,
absolutely have to use something, and that's what I mean, I'm still at pretty much level zero as or one, as far as fully comprehending the environment, because I haven't I've just done a general broad overview of, well, this is what it is at this particular latitude, this is what the Köppen climate classification is, or you see pictures and videos, but I just don't think it's going to do it justice until I get, because I feel like it's going to be a lot more detailed, obviously, than just what is presented through the storefront, as far as what you like look up or research regarding Antarctica or certain regions that are remote.
right, yes, yeah,
Um, and also, you mentioned Admiral Byrd too, about things such as, I believe it was his 33 to 35 expedition and other
right,
expeditions of his, also Scott's expeditions. But with regard to Byrd's expedition, from what I researched, I mean, he said loyalty is going to end up being the most important key. So, as far as members, I feel like telling another member, don't tell a member this. I just feel like these white lies can compound into a giant snowball that could ultimately undermine our own security. So I really
yes,
didn't want to make anything personal with Angelo, but I am most concerned about, accomplishing the goals for the expedition. I do agree with what Bird said about, when you get into these types of environments, survive loyalty above all else. And the training and the physical fitness is the foundation of that. But from what I believe he was saying, without
yes.
loyalty, it's hard to go forward from there, because this
But
can't be done, as far as the survival situation of it. We don't all have eyes on the back of our head, on the side of our head, and this is just how natural law works, I believe.
yes, yes. So that, very much so. That's something that's built together. So when you guys come down, you'd sort of be training as a team. And I know for myself, uh, you the traveling around the world and doing different things, you build trust over a period of time with the guys that you travel with and spend a lot of time with. So then for myself traveling with other Kiwis, we know that we have each other's back despite the situation. The guys that I travelled with, I knew if we got into troubles or someone was going to have a go at us or fight with us or have an issue, those guys weren't going to run off and leave you there on your own. And that's a very big issue that kind of needs to be with the team, is exactly as what you're saying. So that's quite a big thing that needs to be done, but that's done over a period of time, um, when you're training, and you'll learn these things as you guys come down and do the Hawkeye dynamics or do the martial arts or do the firearms training is kind of something you'll learn, um, to it's something that's taught with you guys, with the instructors and with the people that are teaching. They do kind of do work along those exactly the same lines of having to have that trust and confidence in each other and having and knowing that that person's not going to run off when the situation does get high, really get really sort of high into a bad situation. So that's part of what they'll set up and do with the training. But yes, it is very much so needed. And if you have that idea and that sort of done before you arrive, then it's even better. You kind of know the situation or know the guys you're with and know what they're like and how they're going to how they're going to hold the or how they're going to deal with the situations that they come across.
Well, I could be, I mean, if I were to just speculate here, as I think the level of trust and loyalty between members should be as high as you see the value in yourself. So if there a situation came
Yes.
up that was absolutely emergency, last second, do or die, I mean, I feel like some members of the group should be willing to put their entire life on the line just for the chance of another member to survive, also knowing that
Right. Yes.
that you saw yourself not as I was just doing this for my own selfish goals of yes, I wanted to accomplish this goal so I could have this and that, but it's more about something that's much bigger than ourselves. And
Yes.
I have heard that when you get down there you just feel the the scope and the size of what this really is, and just how uh, small we are in a sense as far as the larger power of what nature can do. Because even in the insurance business
Yes.
they call these acts of God. So if a katabatic Antarctic 100-mile-per-hour wind gust picks up or something such as this and we're in a situation, there's only so much we can do at some point. But I do believe that as far as the mindset of going down here, as far as what I believe Bird meant is you have to be willing to possibly even, if it is unfortunate, sacrifice oneself if need be to help another member of the group that's in a situation that's, you know, of, I don't know how to describe this, but let's say, because it is just
I
a,
understand you.
I mean, if that would have to be me, that would have to make that ultimate choice. I mean, it would be unfortunate. And I mean, it's not something I would want it to come, but I'm willing at this point to, I'm
Yes.
just trying to get to the point where I can psychologically wrap my mind around accepting a situation where I'm doing something for the first time in my life. I'm fighting for somebody other than myself.
Right. Yes. Right. Yes. So that's where we'd put you guys in the situation of in the snow in the high country, and run through some scenarios of potentially where that's not going to happen, but it's going to come close to where you kind of push each other to the limits, so that you understand of what could go wrong or what could happen and how to get out of that situation, how to survive that situation. So that's where the training would come into. That's how you do. That's how the training would be designed.
Exactly, and this is what this is where the core of the tension was building up between a few different members of the expedition, particularly with Angelo, because he kept misrepresenting because what you're describing to me now is 180 degrees, not 180, but much different than, what he was telling me the two of you really discussed over the phone, because he was talking about this
Right.
in much different terms, practically, as far as the training, the philosophy of it. I mean, he was talking about this in terms of almost like U.S. Army boot camp type of you know, philosophy or goals, or David Goggins or something like that. But that's
Right.
why I just want like it really. I know Angelo is young and very fired up, but I really do want things to be
Yes.
very. I want us to all be very clear on the picture here, because I have seen the problems that can compound from half truths and white lies, because people think they can just say a little white lie here so it can get, so it can help one's own individual. Oh yeah, if I tell this white lie it'll get me he'll advance me here. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe in white lies or half asking things or half truths. I
Yes.
mean, but I also understand, security, right? Like some information like David or yourself wouldn't be able to necessarily disclose with us right now in full 100% because we're not there yet. And I understand that I'm at level 0, level 1, as well as my other expedition members. We need the training. We need, I mean, the truth too in America and in London and these other Western cities is, there's a lot of pollution, high, there's not really much ability to be able to put your feet in the dirt necessarily, right? Or be up on that type of mountaintop or breathe that air. So practically, we're just we're just not there. Our biofield, our body, and all this. And mindset. It's just we do need. I do definitely believe that we need the assistance of professionals in this regard because I can only do so much on the end of the finances, logistics, pure bureaucracy. That's a whole nother side of things, and I want to
Yes.
focus 100% on what your all side of things as far as the next layer of it because I can't move forward with any of that. It all works together. From what I'm saying, from what I'm
Yes.
seeing, is you know, yeah, being grounded in this approach. So I really do not want
It,
to have distrust between any type of members. And I'll tell you 100% in my opinion what was going on is Angelo was trying to basically sow the seeds of doubt and distrust in the other members. Like Adam, we're telling him, please, if you have an issue, don't come to me. Please go to Matthew and please be open with us about this because if we can't be honest about ourselves here, I don't see how we can achieve goals in these types of high stress environments where, you know,
yes.
believing in ourselves and one another is I'm starting to maybe see why Bird said that aspect of things is number one.
Yes. Especially in extreme environments, like people think they're going to react in a certain way, but until you're in that environment and you're going through that situation, the panic sets in and the mindset's kind of completely different from what you kind of think you might do, and that's where the David's training is really good.
Right, because for instance,
And
sometimes I'll be out on the road, for example, and out of nowhere there's just a car that drives by for some reason. It'll have an exhaust that pop, pop, pop. And I really
yes,
want to just be in a situational awareness mind where I don't let that get to me, where I don't react to that. But I know that's just the beginning because there might be a situation where we do end up, somebody may just try to punch us out of nowhere. And I have, you got to be ready to roll with that and be ready for that, not escalate things, but understand that, physical contact is a reality of natural law. And I don't hope it to come to that point for sure, but I want to be prepared
yeah,
if it comes to that. And I want to know that I just hope I can prove to myself that I'm going to be ready for that and I'm going to be ready to take that on and no matter the cost, philosophically uh, and biologically too, because I know it's not just like I feel like it's definitely mental and physical preparation as far as what that would entail when you're actually there and it happens at the last second. Because some things maybe we can prepare for, like you were saying, as far as situational awareness, reading of microaggressions, and trying to de escalate. But sometimes, do you believe that there are things that can't be accounted for in the last second, and that would be an integral part of the preparation?
yes, yes, and that's where we were very lucky growing up here in New Zealand because that situation was quite common in the 80s and 90s, where we were on a pub situation or going out at night as young teenagers and things. That was happening as a common occurrence because we had no at that stage there was no assault charges or suing people or police that were involved. It was dealt with the situation at the time when it was being happening. If police showed up, it was like half an hour later, and by that time, it was all over. So you were kind of in a pub situation or a situation where your martial arts that was taught was for a practical use on the street. So the guys that were teaching the martial arts were training and exercising and using their martial arts on the street to see if it works. If it doesn't work on the street, then it's no good, so don't use it. So you can't do that now in New Zealand. It's not. But now you're charged with assault, and it goes on a record, and you're you're prosecuted and can go to jail for that sort of for those sort of things that were happening as a common occurrence back in the 80s and 90s. So a
So
lot of the martial art. Sorry, go
does
ahead.
that fall under self defense though?
Yes. Well, back then it didn't matter. There was it wasn't an issue whether it was self defence or not. You just had to survive that situation. So you weren't taken to court then because there was no consequences for what was being done. So you were basically on a survival mode of going out and having a good time. If you got caught in a situation, you had to survive that situation and get yourself out.
Mm.
So there was no case of you're going to be sued or you're going to go to court or the police are going to arrest you or don't punch that guy because you could end up in jail. It was a case, well, punch him before you get punched. So this is the point of what I'm saying is the guys that are going to be teaching the martial arts and the guys that are going to be teaching you what you're kind of needing to learn have grown up in that situation. So anything that you're going to be taught and shown has been used, has been proven, has worked in the past. So they can't use that on a street situation now and test if it works or if it doesn't work or is this practically good or is this not practically good. Whereas these guys that are doing the teaching have used it, have made sure it works and it is practically used. So
Mm.
the guys that
So
are teaching aren't sort of gym guys or people that are in theory this should work. They're guys that have taken this out and used it, and if it has worked, then they teach it. If it hasn't worked, they don't teach it.
so pretty much from what I'm gathering here is you're saying that as far as these methods are concerned, they've been tested scientifically or shown through repeated processes that they are
Yes,
effective logically, practically in these types of situations. Not just this isn't just feelings or fluff or anything, but this is actually very much grounded in physical, scientific, biological types of reality.
yes, yes. So then the guys are in those situations where you're not in a ring. So if you want to do the same as what was done back then, now you have to go and join an MMA club and go into ring fights. But when you're getting that practical teaching and things, they teach for a ring where it's 1-on-1. Whereas when they were teaching in the 80s and 90s, and these guys that were doing it was 1-on-5, 1-on-8, one on in a pub situation where you might have someone come from behind you and hit you over the head with a glass or a bottle or try and stab you with a broken glass or in that situation where you're not fighting one guy, you're fighting three or four or five that may jump in for whatever reason. So that's where the guys that are the teaching of that's the situations they have been in. So they understand that you're not in a uh, um, in a controlled environment where you've got a one-on-one. They understand and teaching the way of dealing with one guy, but he's got three others that want to jump in that also want to do you harm. So that's kind of the situation. They are in the mindset of understanding that you're in an environment that's not going to be like a wolf. So you've got one wolf that's out in front of you that you're trying to deal with, but you've got five others behind you that are hunting you. They're in their mindset of understanding that, so teaching you how to deal with that and how to be aware that's the situation you're in.
Right, and that's definitely where I would say I'm at level zero or pretty much no experience and just completely need to humble myself in the process because that type of situation can it cannot just be you can't just think your way out of that. You have to actually
No.
practice it. You have to train. So 100% I
Yes.
get what you're saying there. So I'm committed 100% towards learning the skills to be able to be prepared for such a situation or other similar situations.
Yes. Yes. So there's several different guys that would have kind of teaching you or showing you what you'd need to go, and these guys have sort of come from those situations. So it's I know there's guys like if we're going to learn Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, a lot of that's done in the practical sense of actually just being in a gym. So it's come from a gym environment. It's not kind of as such a practical on the street worldly um, situation that's been dealt with. It's more of a gym side of things, which is still good, but it's not as good as, or as effective as being in a situation where you're on a street or out in a worldly environment where you can't take someone to the ground and deal with them on the ground because someone else is going to come in and kick you when you're on the ground. Or, you might be dealing with animals or something, some other thing that's you're taking to the ground to contain that situation, whereas the other animal's coming in to attack you because you're attacking its
Mm.
family member or its thing. So it's a lot of the guys we speak to and deal with have kind of love the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, for example, but they realise that it's not a practical. It is good and you need to know it, but it's not a first resort you default to when you're in a situation out in the world. So you don't go onto the street and drag someone to the ground to fight them on the ground because you're just going to get beaten up. If you kind of understand what I'm trying to say.
So as far as the martial arts side of it, jujitsu, gym training, that's just scratching the surface, but the deeper type of street level or remote wilderness type of thing would be more of David's expertise with Hawkeye. Is what you're saying is this is kind of like a layered process where if we
Yes,
start from one layer one, learning the defense skills, jujitsu, and then work ways up to okay now let's say it's July and we're in Christ we're near somewhere in the area of Christchurch and we're up in the mountains and that because like how like yeah and that's what I'm gonna have to try to hopefully figure out here is just the time frame as far as like what we have to do from step one to from A to Z basically figuring out what needs to be said because I think would you say that this is something that has to be approached sort of one step at a time?
I think if you've got 6 months here in New Zealand before you go to Antarctica or something.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so I know potentially they leave in September, October to go to the Antarctic for the summer, because then you're getting that kind of 6 months of light down there.
Um,
Um,
well, I think the goal right now is probably because of this exact location would be December or maybe November
right.
to February.
Okay,
November to February, maybe.
okay.
Uh,
So that extreme, like you'd want the extreme environment when you first arrive. So then you'd be looking at, the Hawkeye Dynamics course or something we'd set up before you arrive, so that you'll know exactly what the course is going to involve and what's going to be set up for you guys before you get here. That's what we'd be doing now. Is we'd go and you will speak to David over the phone prior to coming in here. So then we'd sit down together as a group or whoever, and then we'd say, okay, this is what's going to be involved. This is how we're going to do it. This is where it's going to be. This is what you need. This is what the call is now, is to set this up for you. So then you get an idea of what it's about. Now I'll go back to David and we'll set up a call with David. So then you're speaking to him directly, and we say, okay, this is how we're going to design this course for you guys to deal with, and then we give it to you, and you say, yes, this is what we need. No, this isn't what we need. Yes, this will be better. That'll be better, or this is how we're going to do it, or this is what we want. So then we kind of add to it over the next week or couple of weeks, so that you get an idea of what he's offering, or what he can offer for you, or what we can offer for you.
Absolutely.
Um, and then
So,
that course would want to be done in that June, July, August time, because August, September start warming up, so they don't get the opportunities to get that environment.
so yes, it seems like definitely, if I had to guess, this high altitude, icy condition type environment, snowy, icy condition environment up in the mountains is definitely going to be a key integral part of this training and preparation. So
Yes,
it's a hundred
yeah,
percent, 100% required. I would say that probably if we could, as an expedition team, arrive in early July around that time, maybe.
yes, yes, June, July. We're getting into supposedly meant to be the really coldest parts of the season, but we've been getting um, late seasons down here, so it'll be cold and it'll be perfect, but it's not, you're not September, October time it starts warming up, so then you're not going to get, you have to go further up to get the snow and further away to get those sort of really extreme environments. So that June, July time's perfect. Like we're geographically, um, we can go and surf on the beach and have a swim, and an hour and a half to 2 hours later, we can be in the high country at the top of a mountain peak playing in the snow. So we're kind of very lucky in having short distances to get extreme environments.
So, so definitely closer to the heart of nature versus, living in western suburb or city or in the UK and America. I mean, people are very detached from any type of. I mean, unless you live maybe in California or something, but for most people in the Western countries, like it's just very detached from nature, and
Yes,
it really seems like as far as New Zealand goes, like if there was any maybe one country on Earth that had a higher physical attachment or symbolic attachment to nature and realization of what it means, I would say New Zealand is definitely at the what would be at the closest would be the closest match for that. I mean, I just it's there. I don't know if there are any countries quite comparable as far as New Zealand as far as like the natural aspects of what the country can offer.
not that I've seen when I've travelled. So no, you're quite right. We've been very lucky. When I was growing up here, we were, we could grab a 303 rifle, and an hour later we could be up on the hill hunting deer any time of the year. So we're not restricted into a season of being able to do that, or a time frame that we're being able to do that. So we could be sitting and having coffee at the watching the ocean, and watching guys surf, and then 50 minutes later or 60 minutes later, we can be on the side of a hill trying to hunt a deer. So we kind of we're very lucky on um, that aspect of things here, with things being close, and that was quite common when in the 80s and 90s. It's not common now, and it's being lost. But because of being such a young country, we had to practically make something like, I don't know if you've followed the military side of things or anything, but I know a lot of the SAS, are some of the elite guys in the world, but a lot of them come out of New Zealand because you survive off what you have practically around you. You don't survive off, military equipment and technology and iPhones and GPSs and things like that. Whereas here in New Zealand, you had to survive off what you could find in the bush, and that's what a lot of guys grew up with, especially in the deer hunting days.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting because that sounds like kind of like it would take that type of sort of living experience to be able to prepare oneself for going out into the unknown, so to speak, symbolically, because you guys are so much closer to the heart of nature. I feel like definitely
yes,
it symbolically makes sense why Christchurch or New Zealand is a jump point into many parts of Antarctica too.
yes, yes. So that I know when they had the deer, what they call deer culling. I don't know if you've ever heard of that in New Zealand.
Have not heard of that.
Okay, so they have the wild deer here. So we have a big problem with red deer and elk, or like elk type animals. They're quite a large animal. So in the 70s, they had there was a lot of money involved in deer recovery. So you're recovering live deer. So you had one of the guys who were trying to get involved to help train you guys, um, has been involved with deer recovery. But what they do with the deer recovery is you have a one guy that has an old 303 rifle from the World Wars. They cut that in half and put a net on the end of the rifle, on the end of a 303, and then they jump in a helicopter and they fly up to the side of the mountain. And as you've opened doors on the helicopter, you've got no doors on the helicopter. You shoot this net on top of a deer on the side of a hill, and then which captures that live deer with antlers, and then you jump down on top of that live deer on the side of a hill, capture that animal, put him under a helicopter, and fly him out. And then you stay on the hill and wait for the helicopter to come back. So that was a big thing when in the 70s and 80s here. So you had no. Hopefully that helicopter could remember where you were on the side of the hill.
Mm.
And if he can't remember where you were, or he can't find you, then you have to wait till the next morning until you can get recovered off the side of the hill. So it was pretty cowboy kind of Mickey Mouse type scenarios. So those guys that are still around, they're still alive. They do kind of know that bush survival and how to kind of get out of that situation, and those in the middle of nowhere. They'll be lost on the side of a hill. They have to find their way home. So
Wow.
that was if you're getting that older generation, that was what they used to do for fun. That was the entertainment for the night. They're not going into a pub and getting drunk. They're running around on the side of the hill, jumping out of helicopters onto live animals. So, yeah.
So they would do that to transport the animals to another location, basically.
They were trying to farm them, so they were taking them out
Uh,
of the wild and then putting them onto a farm. So our average wage here in New Zealand at the time was $300 a week. They were getting $1,500 per animal. and they would pick up 5 or 10 animals per night. So
Mhm.
the motivation to be able to um, there was a lot of guys that were killed and died in helicopter accidents and in that situation because it was such an extreme
Yeah,
thing to be doing.
that's
So there's documentaries and a lot of books and a lot of information about it. It's quite an interesting thing actually.
that one second. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about the helicopters because also the helicopters in these type of extreme environments like Antarctica, for instance. If they can become, if I understand this correctly, quite vulnerable under certain unpredictable weather conditions or other conditions. So definitely, it
Yes,
seems like with helicopters, there's an element of unpredictability as far as the elements because you are in a relatively small enclosed space and you are exposed to the wind and other elements of this nature. So yeah, it does seem like being in that situation in the helicopter is definitely not something a typical person in the West or otherwise would have ever even experienced firsthand because most people's experiences of helicopters is just they see them on TV or they see, some government officials getting out of their helicopter or whatever, but it's not typically something that, a normal, typical person here would ever even and would never even think about, "Yeah, I'm going to get in the helicopter right now." It's just, for most people, it's
yes,
beyond their imagination in a way.
yes, very much so. So we've kind of been lucky here in New Zealand with that. Since the COVID thing, we've everything's got very expensive. But prior to that, we've been very lucky into having the opportunities to for the Joe Blow or the average guy to be able to do that. It was just a normal thing.
Right. And
So
it seems like with the expansion of the money supply or however that has worked, since those days, especially in the last 5, 10 years or going back to
yes,
what the banks have been doing, it's just it erodes a person's own sovereignty in a way because they become more dependent on I don't know how to put this, but it definitely pretty much is like the suppression of one's own creative force or sovereign force. Not sure if I'm putting that right, but the I do
100%, 100%.
but people are now seeing the manifestation, I believe, of their own values within this society. How they served, symbolically Moloch's machine as far as, the national religion being consumerism and not having any greater alignment with what it means to actually live in accordance with God's law, the laws of nature, and just thinking that, oh, well, this god of money and this false government that protects the banks is going to, ultimately defend us forever. But that's just not what symbolically history has shown us at all. As far as everything has its season. Every country has its season, and every time has its season. And the things that are you know eternal symbolically, in my opinion, would be this force that's bigger than us, the natural force, and just taking ownership of our place in that. It's not easy for me to wrap my mind around, but I hope that that's
Yes,
what coming to New Zealand would represent. Going to Antarctica is finally just that ego death of, oh, I was this person that existed within delusion, within corporate standards or conformity to um, the national religion being consumerism, and that's just the antithesis of what I want my goals to be about. Like, but
right,
foundationally, I know money's important, at a level, but I feel like people have, seen money as God versus, God's own creation.
right. Yeah, and it's being lost. we're losing that kind of, as you're saying, we're losing that grounding, and I can see that everywhere. It's a it's something that's kind of a shame, really, especially as coming from what we grew up with here to travelling and then to what's been created here is the same problem. As we lose it, we're losing that grounding, and we're losing it very, very quickly.
But that's interesting that even New Zealand, which I would imagine would be the country that would potentially have the opportunity to be the most immune to that type of change, is now even beginning to you know um, roll over, or basically make concessions towards Moloch's machine, or whatever, however you see that. But
Yes,
it is unfortunate to see. But if I were to guess, if there were one country left on the earth that would be willing to stand for God's law, it would be a country that is isolated, surrounded by the sea, on the edge of the earth, so to speak. Not many people even ever think about going to New Zealand because of the time differences, the travel, right?
yes,
Coming from, let's
yes,
say you're in California, I think it's 21 hours ahead of California. So most people would just rather take the easy option. Oh, I'll go down to Mexico, I'll go on a vacation even to
yes.
Southeast Asia maybe. But taking that extra next leap towards New Zealand, I just don't think it really comes into people's minds, because to most people it would seem as if New Zealand is so much of an afterthought, even compared to Australia or Southeast Asia and things like this. But I
Yes.
think, if there were any country that could stand for God's law in 2026, or in general, be New Zealand for sure, because you guys just
Uh,
have,
uh,
sorry,
no, no, way you go. Sorry.
I'm just saying you guys really are closer to the heart of nature than anybody else, symbolically, in my opinion. So,
Yes,
yeah.
it used to be. So over the last 20 years, we've it's been very gradual, as they've done around the world, of indoctrinating people into the system, and it's taken them 20 years to be able to do it and semi pull it off. Whereas when we were growing up, if they tried to pull this COVID tricks and this stuff, they were trying to pull that sort of tricks and those things in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, they were laughed at. There'd be no way that anyone would listen to them. But it's
What do you
taken them 20 years. Sorry?
What do you think about people individually are making concessions, as far as oh, I can let these false rulers and implement this ordinance or this statute, when they know in their gut and their heart that making that concession is ultimately not right, but they make that concession just to keep what they believe is a false peace of mind between them and their neighbors, living in delusion, thinking that these ordinances and these statutes, for instance, during the COVID times, for instance, were bigger than God's law, or respecting actual sovereignty. But people, individually, they made a choice, I believe, in America, West, the whole world, really, to do what was comfortable and easy, rather than make a principled stand, even as an individual, even if that just meant making videos or protests, or letting it be known that I don't want to sell out. This is not the world I want to live in. Now, obviously, the masses, or the peanut gallery, they're going to do what they will do regardless, because it's a matter of, I believe, psychological self-preservation for them, because they can't accept um, acknowledging that there may be a reality that they could have never even perceived existed, that they could have, if they had exercised, what was in their heart, to be free of this, what I believe is spiritual suppression at the deepest levels. But most people, they just caved into one white lie, one half truth, and they just, oh, I'll go along with the mass because it'll make me comfortable and all this, and it'll help me keep this level of comfort and, you know, agreement with my peers. But as far as I could see, it's just different layers of types of, unfortunately, minds that are out on the field, the prairie, just waiting to be, devoured by a higher source of strength or intelligence or whatever it is that would be wishing to coerce them into that position of effective slavery. But I don't believe at all that that's how we have to live individually or as a world. But um, as it stands right now, most people aren't willing to make the individual acknowledgement of how they created this world themselves by, choosing to, make concessions to Moloch's machine, go along with the COVID stuff. And I mean, at a fundamental level, that's really my biggest problem with this current society is a lack of regard for the bigger natural order of things, and people just wanting to give false power to these not bureaucrats, but actual false directives like ordinances during COVID, for instance.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. So we're like here's about 20 years behind everyone else, but we're being fast tracked very quickly into those scenarios. Um, where we have the Kiwis, or what we call Kiwis or New Zealanders, have a line in the sand, and then not until you cross that line in the sand, they're quite happy to plod along and not do much. But when you do hit that line and step over that line in the sand, then there's all hell to pay. But we're not at that line in the sand yet. There's not enough people that have hit that line yet to make anyone get up off their ass and do something about it. There is the older generation is and will and are doing that, but the younger generation have kind of been indoctrinated, so it's very difficult to get them to wake up and to be aware of what's happening. And it's happening. It's starting to people are starting to wake up and realize that's what's going on. But it's and that's what the process is around the world. But it's just taking time. And um, we kind of people here don't want to make waves or put their head above the water to get it chopped off just yet. It will come, and it's going to come, but they're not ready to do that yet, which is kind of frustrating, very frustrating. But that's another whole story.
Well, even if people themselves or countries as collectives don't make that stand, I believe that stand will be made for them in a way that they wouldn't have expected it to come, whether that means through a
Yeah.
process like, I'm not saying pole shift is real or anything, but I definitely think there's a natural order of things to where, yes,
Yes.
if things are too out of balance, there is a force that's much bigger than anyone. Is that God? Is that the earth itself and its consciousness? But I do believe it will take back and take
Yes.
action as necessary. And ultimately, um, as a collective society on Earth, there's nothing that the governments can do, and there's nothing that a country can do. It's up to, I believe, the individual ultimately to say, do they want to do what's comfortable or do they want to do what's right no matter the cost? And for most people, they've just wanted to sell out to Moloch's machine or the illusion of consumerism versus actually, who they are at the deepest level or what they could be because people, from what I've seen psychologically, have these self-preservation instincts to want to follow the monkey see, monkey do mindset more so than just what's fundamentally aligned with nature.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a shame to see it happen in New Zealand over the last 20 years. For the like I'm 50 years old, so we've kind of been watching it happening to people over that period of time. Although I've been travelling for 20 years, so I've kind of been in and out of the country. So we see over the time we're away, I come back and I see the changes where people don't see the changes because it's like boiling the frog over a small like period of time. So when you're away, you don't get the boiling effect, but you come back and you see the frog being boiled. So it's been a bit of a shame to see it happening here in New Zealand over the time.
I haven't
But
done
yes,
much traveling in recent years, but in 2015, I was living in China in a very toxic environment, a city, Shenzhen, actually.
oh,
It was a tier one Chinese city, but it was still enormous amounts of pollution, noise pollution, and just artificial. I would say the overall, symbolic vibrational frequency of that area wasn't conducive at all to harmony with any type of intelligence or natural law or any type of biology. I mean, it was you just saw people sick and dying on the street in service of giant corporate government interests, and it was a very unsettling feeling. In fact, I had to leave that place after relative. Well, I did stay there for a month, about less, just under 1 year. But I came back to America over the summer, and I saw just how much better it was at that time, summer 2015 versus China during summer of 2015. But now I'm seeing that the Chinese type of value system has started to export itself to the West, and now for a lot of people, the EMF levels or radiation and things of this nature, or, it's definitely moving more towards China, especially when I was there. The issue was also the firewall censorship. I was pretty much really surprised at how little people could actually express their genuine feelings in China. And when I came back to America, I felt like there was at least more freedom of speech. People were more open about who they were, what they, or at least thought they believed in principally. But now it's completely shifted almost in 10 years. I've seen, this symbolic communist mindset sort of take over. And it really seems like this, you know, sort of mindset of selling out to the machine it's just everywhere now. And while I thought I could escape
yes,
it in 2015, by coming back to my home in, Lexington, Kentucky, Central Kentucky, the bluegrass, horse farms,
right,
rolling fields, that's what kind of appealed to me and why I had to leave China. But, I just see now that there was really ultimately, there's no running from that within the boundaries of this so-called vampire casino, because our own problems seem to catch up with us no matter where we go physically. So I believe it has to
yes,
start in an individual's own state of mind and what they really value. You know,
yes, yes. Yeah, you can. The running to different parts of the world don't work. Doesn't work.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Or Angela was saying, well, we need to get to New Zealand ASAP. And I was trying to explain that this is really just we need to hear Mike out first, take things one step at a time, make sure we have the permits and everything in order. And I tried to explain, this is in a lot of ways much bigger than just moving ourselves from point A to point B, because our problems will follow us, obviously, if we're not properly aligned and in harmony with this force that is much bigger than any of us. So, I
Yes,
mean, and I'm definitely going to see where things going forward, but I had to personally draw a line in the sand as far as you know, what we're doing here, because I don't feel like the emphasis should be on, oh, we can't do this yet because silver isn't at $500 an ounce and we don't have these financial resources exactly as we want them. I'm trying to do everything I can within my power on that side of things, but that only, in my opinion, comes secondary to the actual values that are, like I think we've been saying, are much bigger than any of us. So,
yes, yeah.
I mean, and I think
No,
Jeremy even mentioned that at some point the value of money will become um, sort of irrelevant in a certain sense, because it's going to ultimately be seen like value and money will be seen as a reflection of how we lived within whatever it is, 180 years of silver price suppression, or however that plays out.
yes.
Because even if, yeah,
That. Go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, I just wanted to hear you out, because I think I just said what I needed on that point, but.
Okay. So yes, totally, and it would be. that would be amazing to see people coming back to a reality and not a slave to the dollar, so to speak. Um, and then coming back, like we were lucky when I was growing up here in New Zealand and Jeremy and things. We weren't the money was just a tool. It's just a well, it's like a spanner when you pick it up and use it when you need it for that purpose. And we had values of going out and seeing people and having fun and fishing and hunting and doing being in the elements is how we grew up, and that was first. Family and friends and people and things were first, and then the rest of it came afterwards. That's obviously all changed, but I think from what we can see and what Jeremy's saying and what we've seen in different places, it's it will eventually have to go back to that. And I'm hoping that's sort of where the direction where we're going to be heading in. In the meantime, it's going to be a survival of basically getting through the rough ride in between. That would be the ultimate goal, is going back to what originally people were here for, is family and friends and living life, not a slave and chasing that dollar, and not kind of living in that way of having to survive and fight for that dollar to survive. It's just wrong. It's not right for what people were for and what we're here about.
But if silver were to be freely traded and maybe it would be worth $10,000, that would stop the machine overnight. You know, no cheap military tech, telecom tech, you know, the very technology we're even using to communicate right now is a result of the suppression of God's law in the form of, you know, something as natural as silver. And if silver, you know,
Yes,
is the most reflective metal, for instance, symbolically, and it's a reflection of our values and what we've created within this world, you know, I just don't think most people, when it comes to that day, you know, let's say if there was a day the earth stood still or a day of reckoning as far as, the truth would not be televised. Maybe the lights would start flickering and there would be wide scale power outages from something such as a geomagnetic storm, right? Or a weakening of the magnetic field. I'm not saying that's what it's going to be necessarily, but I think maybe
yes,
Tesla kind of lined that out with 369, and even now I believe we're seeing instances of things that people never thought were possible, like geomagnetic induction. You know, all these fires everywhere, trees burning on the inside. You know, Earth crying out in a sense, and people and it not being televised. You know, I turn on the
yes,
TV or YouTube or anything, and from what I can see, there's really only one channel even talking about it, or almost no channels, covering the situation with the environment on that level. So I just
yes,
believe when people are ultimately, because I do believe there will be not a day or days that come where people have to maybe look up at the sky at their own reflection or see, as above, so below type of idea, the reflection of what we did on earth is happening in the heavens above us. And it's ultimately going to come to collect, kind of like maybe in a way that song like, what was it, King's Harvest, Dancing in the Moonlight. I mean, we'll see what happens going forward, but I definitely think that day will come where people will have to reconcile what their choices meant in the larger whatever it was, industrial society. And I just don't think psychologically most people will be able to accept that they, you know, were a reflection of Moloch rather than God. And for them to admit they were
yes,
wrong, I just don't think it's going to happen. And I do think there will be a psychological issue. I don't know how it's going to play out exactly, if it's going to be an existential crisis that, transforms into people, symbolically short circuiting or something. I mean, we'll have to see. But unfortunately, I just don't think most people are going to be able to bridge the gap between the 180-year world of silver price suppression versus going into a world that people one day have no concept of what telecommunication is because they've never been educated on what these frequencies are and how they uh, their applications in science and technology, because basically that's in a way, you would have to bridge the gap between this society and then a society that basically starts from scratch in a sense, if that's what it has to come down to. I believe this is shown in certain senses symbolically, like maybe the Final Fantasy games, like 500 years in the future after certain industrial societies go away, and you can see that that was never real in the first place. The whole idea of New York or Los Angeles, London, Tokyo, or whatever these forces of Moloch's industrial towers represented were only temporary and fleeting, and they were only an illusion. Towers of worship, like they bowed and prayed to the neon gods they made, type of idea. And I just don't think people have the circuitry to be able to. And I do see the power in slow drip of information, because over the last 10 years
Yes.
I've definitely had to come to terms too with oh well, if I wasn't healthy physically, mentally, or anything to be able to accept this larger truth. So I don't know how the average person that's stuck their head in the sand through all of COVID, through all of Trump's first term, right, or through WikiLeaks, or through Edward
Yes.
Snowden, right, for instance, things like that, are going to be able to reconcile what's going to come, because the whiplash of it has the effect of, symbolically disorienting somebody to a point of possible unrepair, where you wouldn't be able to repair it. So I just, what do you think about
Yes.
people on that day? Let's just say, because I just don't think most people are going to be able to bridge the gap from this old world to the possible new Earth, for instance.
You're quite right. I think it's going to be very interesting. It'd be depending on the age. I think too. I think the older people are kind of in that generation of having to be able to survive without the modern technology. The younger generation can't survive without the technology. So I think a little bit of comes down to that, but it's also um, people kind of ready for that shock, and it's been that, as the guys have said, and Jeremy and Q and everyone sort of said, it needs to be that drip, drip, drip to kind of ease people into the fact of what's actually been going on and what's behind the scenes and what we've kind of let happen.
But I believe
Not yeah.
But I believe even with that slow drip psychologically, let's say like the boomer mindset would just, I mean, and I don't really just think even that, but I just think maybe well over 90% of people just aren't psychologically prepared.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Very, very much so. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be when it shifts, it's going to shift, and it's going to be very major. Um,
Because
so
like
it's
Trump
going to be
says, I mean, I've been dealing with all these fake news channels, let's just say symbolically online
yeah,
or whatever. Everybody, has their spin on things, but ultimately, once I requested receipts or did, actual analysis of certain pieces of information, their narratives kind of fall apart quickly, and you can see sort of how they were trying to draw people back into the agenda of Moloch's machine, really, as far as
right.
I mean, YouTube is, I believe, will become, for instance, something that is seen as an archive or something that was a relic of the past, just as CNN symbolically. But that's how rough this, or even BitChute or Rumble. I mean, it's really the entire architecture of that narrative control infrastructure. It just runs much deeper than I think people really believe. Yeah, people talk a lot about, yes, this person's a shill or something like this, or this person is co-opted with they're working for special interest possibly, and it's hard to get the truth. But I really think people are underestimating just how much fake news there really is out there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They've got an idea, but it's everything. It's there is it's trying to, and this is the issue, I think, of a lot of a lot of problems is that people are trying to navigate through that, and they it's hard to find your way around what is actually the truth, and whereas um, what's it all about? And this is the issue everyone's finding. Like, we're speaking to people here and overseas and things like that, and they're aware of things are wrong, and some are just waking up, some are kind of fully awake, but they still don't know, what is actual truth, and where's kind of what do they believe in now.
Yeah, because
A
there's
lot
so
of lot
many
of people are lost.
different channels that even purport to be, defenders of nature, but as it turns out, they would just be more fake news agents distorting the actual natural law truths. And I can just see how strange, the world has been since 2015 as far as how maybe certain groups adjusted information control because prior to 2015 it was a lot more straightforward as far as, oh, there are these few channels online, there are these few channels, mainstream
Yes.
channels, and people pretty much were in a very narrow focused mind, uh, well, pretty much until that seed had been planted in 2015 through certain leaks of, verifiable information, emails, stuff like this. I really see how this casino management system, so to speak, has like altered the stream of information, and there has just been a lot more, I think, damage control, narrative shifting, and it's been a time of real confusion and in some ways awakening for a lot of people, but it has not come easy because the stream of information is just still, it seems like, as far as the casino goes, like their number one hyper obsession is control of narrative through any means necessary. So
Yes.
it's very difficult for me to put into words in a way, but the world has not been the same since 2015. I will just say it that like that, if you know what I mean, in a sense. And I've tried to do the best I could, I think, in that time to, eat more naturally, try to align myself with proper values. I could have stayed at this comfortable job I had in 2017, but for instance, I mean, for my core principles, I just couldn't, feed this illusion in that sense anymore. So since then, my life has been a lot different, and I just know that I was like in 2017, I could not have had this conversation with you. I would not have been ready, health wise, physical, or anything else. Like, there's no way my
Right.
values would have been aligned with even having the opportunity to go on an expedition possibly because yeah, so I do have to say, like, I underestimated the effectiveness even at that time of slow drip,
Yes.
and I've had to humble myself also and just come to the conclusion that yes, I was wrong about, well, who I thought I was, and I was pretty much a reflection of what Moloch's machine wanted. I just was so short-sighted to not be able to even wrap my mind around to that. I really needed 10 years. And even right now, I know how really unprepared I am practically for, like, if I was teleported to this environment right now, let's say in Antarctica, I know I'm not ready by any means. And I take the training uh, aspect of this extremely serious, and I'm very committed to moving forward with the next stages of whatever is going to need to be done, at a practical level of
Right.
training and all that. Though I know it's not going to happen overnight or anything, but uh, yeah, I just never could have like articulated how important slow drip was, and how many fake
Yes.
news channels there have been out there to discredit the idea of because people seem to think they can just bend the bars of the cage, so to speak, symbolically to their will. But I mean, it's actually, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day symbolically, and I just don't think waking up is built in a day symbolically either. So
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, very, very much so. It's no, there's a lot to go through as well. Yeah, very. The world's changing, but it's changing quickly, which is hopefully it's for a good thing. Just going to take a bit of time. It's that getting people awake and making getting them into their, as you're saying, into their own mindset to be able to change within themselves, and then it's change the world.
now, do you believe if things were to, let's say, hypothetically change, if there were to be a reset event, whether that's financially or through maybe natural disaster, let's say geomagnetic storm and power goes out, or people, there's a financial reset of kinds or restructuring somehow, do you think people's internal values are more likely to stay aligned with that type of natural higher order of things, or do you think that humans' own psychology is more susceptible to falling back to within illusion, delusion over time? Maybe it would be even 100 or 200 years. Do you think that humans can sustain what is right necessarily, or do you think they're more likely to fall back under illusion, under the justification of groupthink, conformity, psychological self-preservation of conformity to false illusions, or do you think people will? What do you think about human psychology? I guess at the deeper levels of being able to stand principled throughout the decades, throughout the centuries, even.
Interesting question because it's sort of when we kind of over the period of time, it's changed, and we've all been sort of, from what I can see, been indoctrinated into their matrix and into their kind of theories of things, and which is not a good thing. But there's people if people go through enough of a shock, like if they go through that survival mode and into a thing, there's not going to be many left who'll be able to survive it, depending on how extreme it is. So the people that do survive it and come out the other side are going to be a very strongly willed person. So that person's going to be more kind of likely to stand on their own and go down the right channels. But it depends on how many people of those survive and how many people those people sort of people are around.
What do you think
Um,
about just one lie or just one half truth having a butterfly type of effect, where people can really think that they can get away with cheating the truth? I mean, because it seems like it's sort of almost ingrained in humans to think that, oh, nobody's watching me, I don't have accountability to any higher force, I can do as thou wilt
yeah,
in a certain sense. Like that would be to me, even if things are corrected, let's say we're in perfect harmony again, I just feel like in humans' own psychological fallen state, they're very you know, they tend to lean back towards, taking the easy way out and just telling somebody,
yeah.
okay, well, this is how it is, but it's really only 90% that way. But somehow it has a butterfly effect that could even seep 100 years into the future. That one lie, for some reason, it feels like has the potential to split the earth in two in a symbolic sense in some ways.
Well, yeah, it always bites you in the ass, we say down here. So sooner or later, it's gonna bite you in the ass, and it's you're gonna realise. And if you can be aware of that, then you kind of head around the right tracks. But if you're not aware of that and you think you can get away with it, then they'll keep pushing it. But yeah,
Yeah, and that was
sooner or later, it's going to bite you in the ass, and you're going to pay for it. And it
so
doesn't
for
matter.
the expedition, right? Hypothetically, or let's just say if different members were telling another, don't tell this member this, don't tell this member that. Do you think that could also create some sort of a chain reaction, butterfly type effect where, that one small lie or that one small concealment could ultimately make the difference in that situation where you have to survive and you have to defend yourself in an environment in a situation of high stakes, right? Mm, uh, like we've kind of been going over different situations that
Yeah.
could be experienced,
It's a,
but
it's not going to work, and it's going to the team's going to fall apart. So yes, I understand what's going on. It's just not where I'm not in the position of saying, well, this is what you guys should be doing, and this is how you should come as a team, or this is what you need to. Or we can show you the routes of what we can provide you and give you and
mm,
train you, but we can't tell you how to run your team or how to um, who should be in the team and who should not be in the team. That's
mm,
kind of what it's up to you, but it's also once you do this training, you'll realize, okay, this guy's going to make it. This not guy's not going to make it. We need this guy. We don't need this guy. It's
mm,
sort of kind of that'll be the coming out the other end. But hopefully, everyone then you'll kind of be at a point where um, you'll be able to say, well, we as a team we adapt to how this guy works, what he's because you'll through the training. The idea is to um, to work out each individual person on how they react to certain things and situations and stuff like that, and you work as a team to okay, this guy's physically not fit, so we'd have to take him a bit, help him out a bit more on this side of things because he's not physically fit to be able to get through this situation. So then you understand that within the team, and then you say, okay, well, we can deal with that as a team, or this guy's. He hasn't put his effort in. He's overweight. He's been sitting at McDonald's for the last 3 months when he's meant to be training. We can't take him because he's not making the effort to put in and work as a team with the team. So it's kind of we understand that side of things. Um, but yeah, for our situation here is we'd show you and teach you as much as we can, but to get into that side of it before you arrive is kind of we kind of can't help out or can't we understand that this what's going on behind the scenes, but we're not in a situation where we say, okay, well, yes, we want him on board with your team because I don't know him. We don't know that situation well enough to tell you how to organise a team or run the team. It's
mm,
kind of not our side of it. But
right.
yes, we kind of understand what you're saying, yeah.
I'm
But
just
yes,
thinking at this
it
point,
is, yeah.
I just want the people that are the most psychologically grounded and prepared for this
Yes,
and honest with themselves and not
yes,
just doing
yes,
this for selfish reasons and are ready to
yes,
actually fight for the first time in maybe their life, fight for something, someone and something other than themselves.
yeah, 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 definitely. And that would make it work. That makes a really strong team.
Yeah. So as of right now, I think we've been able to establish a pretty good idea as far as the training side of things and the other types of information or concerns we had regarding the expedition members and the philosophy and all that, and going forward with um, it's wait, David, right? Yes, David.
Yes.
David's side of things going forward next. So yes, what do you believe as an expedition we should do next? Should we contact at should we who do you believe we should contact next regarding
Well, I'll go away this week. Hopefully quite soon. I'll get off the phone now and I'll ring David and explain to him what's going on. The reason he's not on this call at the moment is because of the other people that would get involved. And it's like the martial arts side and the other people that would get together. So I'd now go away and I'll say, okay, I'd just say to David, this is what we're kind of after, but we're also going to involve this guy and this guy and this guy. Um, and some of the people that we want to get involved still think along those lines of self-preservation. Well, this is my gig. I want this, and I should be in charge because that kind of scenario. So that's why we're kind of coming as an outer a person that's not involved in that and saying, okay, well, for you guys, you need to do this with David, and you need to do this with this guy, and you need to do this with this guy because that's going to benefit the whole picture. Whereas someone like David, it's like, okay, well, this is my company, this is what I present. We're going to give you the best of my things, but we don't want the others involved because that takes it away from what I'm doing.
Right. So this is
So
about, things being is professional, straightforward, and as far as David's
yeah,
side of things, it seems like it's structurally a bit different than your side of things. That he would be much better suited for explaining the specifics and the details of his side of the business
yes,
operations.
yes. Well, he designed it and he ran it and he runs it. So that's his company, his business. So that's something for me. We'd want you guys doing that because he's the best at what he does, but he doesn't do the martial arts.
Right.
So then he could say, okay, we'll bring in, on my company's going to bring in another guy who does martial arts. He's good. We've kind of done this and done this and done this, but I'm taking a cut of that because he's coming through my company. So we're doing here is saying, because it's not my, we're not, this isn't a business of mine. This is just something we're doing it as a favour for Jeremy because of what he's done for us. So
Mm.
it's kind of like I'm not making money out of this, or I'm not doing. It's not in my benefit to sit on the phone for 3 or 4 hours talking to you guys to do this. It's just it's because Jeremy's helped me out extensively in my time, and it's basically for me. It's I've had a great opportunity to be given a lot of stuff, so it's my turn to give back. If you know what I'm saying, not that it's
Yeah,
relevant,
and
but that's kind of why it's where I'm coming from.
it
So we
really means a lot what Jeremy is doing, and I mean
Yeah, well,
the time.
he's done a lot for a lot of people. So yeah,
Yeah, I believe what he's doing is even difficult to put into words. I have a hard
yes.
time explaining how appreciative I am of what he's done on his side of things and the time that you guys have been willing to take towards helping. Is just, I can't say enough what it means. I mean, so.
Well, it's just I've had the same stuff from with my travel. So I've had people like Americans and people coming out and done things for me that I can't repay back. So this is my way of saying thank you very much to what's happened to me in the past to get to me to where I am. So I want to pass it on to someone else without them giving me anything. So that's sort of where I'm coming from, but that's it's kind of irrelevant. So, but what we're trying to come back to is the fact of, that's why David isn't in on this conversation at the moment
Mm.
because he's kind of still in that sign of mindset. Nothing against him, and he'll do the best he can. He is the best at what he is, and he's a great guy. But for me to bring in him and then have a different aspect where you're going to get the best of the martial arts side of things. That's not part of his company, so he's kind of not going to be in that, not wanting that conversation as much as what he is directing you guys into his side of things. If I don't know if that makes any sense. So we'd present you with that military side of training and the David stuff, which is really good, and then we'd go on to Andrew. We're trying to get him on board with the Wing Chun and the martial arts side of things, as well as the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and then the high country training with some potentially another guy Sheldon who has the opportunity to the hunting and the helicopters and the other extreme kind of training on that side of it as well. So there's a few opportunities here that I'll go away and start setting up now that we kind of know where you guys are at and what you want, and then we'll come back to you in a week and say, okay, these guys are now on board. We've got, which they are, we've spoken to them already, and most of them are. But now we can say, okay, now this is the time frame. This is what we are going to be able to provide. And then I'd pass on their numbers to you, and if you wanted to go through and contact them individually, so you understand who they are and what they're at, and that's kind of thing. So what I'm doing now is basically the groundwork to be able to say to you, okay, these are the best guys in their industry, these are their numbers, or we can coordinate it all so when you arrive, this and this is going to happen. So there's a bit of work on my side getting that ready. And then in a day or a couple of weeks' time, or sorry, in a week's time, we don't want it too long, then we'd say, okay, these are the numbers and this is what the opportunity is and this is where we potentially can set up for you. And do we go forward or do you want this or you don't want this? And this is kind of
So,
where we're at.
so for the next week, as far as things go, David will kind of get an idea of what we went over as far as the general goals for the training, and
Yeah.
then going forward, and
We're
maybe.
sorry. So now I'd get off the phone now, which I'm kind of going to do in a minute. And then I'll ring him and say, okay, this is what's happening. We need a course that's going to involve this, and this high country training, extreme weather, situations where this is going to happen. So we're going to design a course for you guys that we'll present to you and say, okay, this is what we're going to do in the course, and this is how it's going to be run. And then you say, okay, well, yes, we need that. No, we don't need that. This is going to be, we need a bit more of this, or we want something else that we haven't covered in the course. So we're going to present that to you in the next week. And then on the martial arts side, on the other situational awareness and the hunting and the kind of helicopter stuff and that side of the other extreme side of things, then we also get hold of those guys and come up with scenarios that they can present to you and say, okay, this is available and we're going to do this. And you say, yes, no, it's not going to
Mm,
work. So we want to be able to do that in the next week to
mm,
give you guys the opportunity to figure out what you want and what you don't want, who you want to speak to, who you don't want to speak to, and what's going to be useful to you guys.
okay, so in the next week or so, just be thinking about
Just yeah,
what we've talked about some more, and do some more research into Hawkeye dynamics and everything else. And but
yeah,
for now,
yeah.
about a week's time can probably start getting things more formally organized and figured out with David's side of things.
With everything. So I'll go
Okay.
away and I'll talk to these guys. One of the guys, a couple of the guys, kind of off grid, so to speak. So it takes a week or a couple of days to get them to reply because they're kind of they've unplugged themselves, or they're away, or they're overseas, or there's different things going on. Um, New Zealanders have kind of that what we call island mentality, where it kind of, whereas in America and the rest of the world things happen very quickly and kind of people expect answers and things sort of within the day or within kind of an hour or so and people need to people usually pick up phones within the phone call within 20 minutes or half an hour of that phone call they reply back, whereas down here and some people and the guys that we're dealing with won't get, like one guy I've spoken to just recently about the martial arts side of things, and he said, "Yeah, I'm keen on doing that, and that sounds great." And we haven't heard from him in a week, so he'll get back to me sometime next week,
Mm,
hopefully. So it kind of the mentality is a bit slower, and they take their time and they do things in their own
mm,
time. It's not, it's frustrating and a little bit difficult, especially when you kind of want things moving. But
mm,
that, especially when you start getting into islands and
mm,
Asia and into Fiji and those parts of the world that have their own time frames of,
mm.
you know, they're away fishing and they're not plugged in until they come back a week later. So it's, yeah,
I
so
get
it's
that.
just
Well,
yeah,
I will be keeping. I will be keeping a lookout for any updates, and in the meantime, yeah, I'll just keep an eye on any updates or messages until then, and hopefully can continue doing some research and preparations that I can in the meantime for
Yeah.
everything going forward. So as of right now, though,
Well,
sorry.
sorry. Well, I was just going to say we'll try and organise another phone call like this this time next weekend. Um, it's kind of easier for me on that kind of time frame, and then we'll have David with us, and then anyone else that we can get that's in the country to be here on the same call, and then we'll say to okay, well, this is our opportunities now. This is what we've got, and we present to you something that you're kind of able to come back to the team and say unless you have the team with you next weekend and everyone gets together and goes over what they're wanting and what they're not wanting and things like that. Either way, we'll get David on board next weekend with the phone call, and then whoever you wanted on your side, and then whoever else I can get in the same phone call, then we kind of do it that way if that works for you.
That sounds good.
Yeah, we're
And
ho- hoping to do that this weekend, but that's not sort of something that's been able to,
uh,
with scenarios on your side and scenarios on our side, it hasn't really worked. But that's fine. That's okay.
so possibly about maybe next weekend or something around this time frame.
Yes, yeah. We'll keep in touch and we'll drop you a message. But yeah, somewhere around there be kind of works because of the, everyone else is doing other things, so it's getting them all in one place at one time is a key point.
Okay. Um, it sounds good, and I'm prepared for all that. As of right now, I think I'm gonna have to eat some dinner and continue some research here, and just I'll be on the lookout for sure going forward towards next week, and communicating with everybody involved and getting the clear picture and formally establishing the potential for plans in concrete terms. It seems like, and yeah. Um,
Okay, that sounds great. Sorry, things haven't worked out on as well as they're hoping for your side, but yeah, you'll get there in the end, I hope. So it's good.
all right. Thank you for the time, and speak soon.
Will do. Thank you, Matthew. Take care.
Thank you.
All the best, mate. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.